4 developers must create 4 games in 1 day. This is the Cycle Challenge. These are the developers, me, Liam, Samyam, and Polymars. Let me explain. During Cycle 1, each of us will begin work on a brand new game. We'll have 45 minutes. Then when the timer runs out, each of us will pass our project onto the next developer, who will take the reins from where the other left off. You do this for 8 cycles, which means each game gets a total of 6 hours of development time. No communication between devs is allowed, so misunderstandings can occur and are part of the fun. But before all that, this video is sponsored by Stream. This is an awesome Unity integration that will allow you to implement a full chat and feed system inside of your game. For example, if you wanted to make a chat system for your online multiplayer RPG, then Stream would be one of the best solutions you could choose. We even made a 2-part tutorial series on Stream, which will show you exactly how to get it working inside of Unity, step by step. So whether you want to make a fun clan system, the next Among Us, or a beautiful chat for your open world MMO, then Stream should be your go-to solution. You can apply for Stream's maker accounts to use Stream's chat SDK for free using the link in the description. 3,
okay, let's go.
2,
Timer
1, go!
Oh,
During Cycle 1, I mostly made artwork in Photoshop and did a tiny bit of C# code. Here's what I ended up with. Alright, so I've got this little project that I've just begun. It's kind of a strategy game. There's some weird art, there's kind of a weird creature where you can place kind of troopers on it. And that's about all I have for now. Meanwhile, Samyam began work on her project.
So basically for my project, I wanted to match a sequence. So the player has to perform a certain sequence of actions, and then a certain sequence will lead them to go to a certain location. And the sequences are random. I basically just wrote a ton of scripts, which don't work fully.
Let's now have a look at what Liam was up to.
so here guys, we've got my game with these little tiny troopers shooting projectiles. So I want to go for kind of a army management game / strategy game. I don't have an exact idea in my head for now. I'll let Jacob from Polymars figure that out.
And finally, we have Polymars.
So the first hour is complete, and I've created a little 3D platformer. It needs a bit of work, but you can see I have this player character here. It probably shouldn't rotate like that, but it's a good starting point. You can sprint, walk normally, you can jump, and you can go onto these platforms. This game is being passed on to Noah, and I'm pretty excited to see what he does with it.
Cycle 1 was arguably the most easy and liberating part of the project, each dev being able to go in whichever direction they liked. From Cycle 2, however, it was a matter of trying to understand what the other developer wanted to do and trying to make progress on that. Hey everybody, so I've continued work on Jacob's project. He's starting to go for a 3D platformer, so that's why I kind of embraced. So I've drawn some art, improved a little bit of the character art as well, and the goal is to climb what I call the spire. But basically that's what you do, you jump, you're trying to reach the top.
So basically, someone in my chat gave me the idea that this could be a mind. I thought these little guys can be the protector of your mind. As you get hit by these meteors, you lose health on your mind until it collapses.
Okay, Liam here. So I received the project Sam began and sadly had a really hard time understanding what she was trying to create. After more than 20 minutes of futile attempts at bug fixing, I decided to just start work on something completely different. A sort of arcade-like tower defense, very bare bones since I only had about 15 minutes left. Project B was struggling.
Alright, so using what Liam made, I started creating the beginning of a tower defense type game. So you have a set amount of money here that you can use to purchase units on either of these 2 platforms. And that's about it right now.
This is cycle number 3. I made a little bit of progress on the project Liam began, game C. Not very much though. I really tried to stick with kind of like the geometric art style. Didn't really understand too much the vision of like having 2 different armies. So yeah.
This game, so Polymars, I believe is the one who started it. I really like the style, the 2D sprites in the 3D area. And from what I got, you're supposed to climb. It says climb the spire, so you climb up there. I made the character face the camera. The wind turbines were there, but I made them rotate, and now I added a wind zone for them. So if you get in the wind zone, they push you away. So it's pretty fun to play. It's a little slippery.
I've added, so basically the game For now, there's this living creature, this living planet, and we could place sort of troops on it. The troops weren't doing anything at the moment, so I just added different classes to those troops, different scripts for each troop. Shoot, there's a healer, there's a defender. So yeah, different troops, different mechanics for each troop.
So I spent the past hour working on the completely wrong project. Yeah. I think this is the game I was supposed to be working on. I have made absolutely no progress.
Okay, that's 3 cycles complete. So far we have a weird strategy game where you protect a grotesque mines, the difficult beginnings for an arcade tower defense, a challenging 3D platformer, and another tower defense with tiny troopers and weird geometric aliens. Let's see how these games next evolve. So for cycle 4 I had to work on the infamous game B. I decided to completely change direction since there was hardly any progress made anyway, and it felt too similar to our other games where you need to protect something from approaching enemies. So I made some weird squiggly creatures. Perhaps you would control a small character with the mouse cursor and you would need to avoid touching these creatures.
So I added more challenge to it. The health works. So if the enemy gets too close to these little, now they're rotating platforms, then you lose health. And when you lose health, the level restarts. It's much fun. Funner, that's not a word.
Okay, so I received the 3D platformer for the first time. I added a blue platform that moves between different positions, as well as a black block that breaks after a couple seconds. I also tweaked the difficulty a bit, making the wind turbines a little less powerful.
Alright, just got finished with my additions to this game. All I really added was a simple coin object that when collected by a unit gives you some money, and right now it's sort of just a high score. I'm thinking it can maybe be used as currency to purchase more units. Pretty simple addition, but at least it's something.
We are already halfway through the cycles and each game still needs a ton of work. Will we be able to turn these half-baked prototypes into fun, awesome looking experiences? Let's find out. So with that said, introducing cycle 5. So I received the game I began during cycle 1. I gave the experience a sort of satisfying idle clicker-like feel where characters boost your high score. There's now lots of UI pop-ups and some character explanations. Kind of looks like a confusing mess. Also use these spooky grey creatures that reduce your score. It's all about balancing defensive characters that give you gold to spend on more troops, and finally those that simply boost your end score.
Yeah, it's actually functional, like a fully functional game now.
So Sam added movement to the game as well as a spooky ambient sound effect. The scene also fades in and out ever so slightly, which adds to the atmosphere. I also really like how she animated the player to scale in and out, which will definitely add a nice challenge when we turn these creatures into obstacles which must not be touched.
Cycle 5, guys. Gold pickups when the enemies get destroyed, they spawn gold. So you can pick up. I've added a healer. Sam added kind of like weird platforms that move on. I'm not sure why, so I've removed that for now.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
I've just commented it out so she could add it back when she gets back to the project.
Meanwhile, the one and only Polymars made enemies destroy the player on collision and also added a win state for when the hero reaches the top of the level. So with the end of cycle 5, I unfortunately had to leave for a few hours, which means I would work on game B, C, and D right at the end, adding the final touches to the projects. But Liam, Jacob, and Sam continued hustling, trying to achieve the impossible, making 4 games together in one day without even communicating.
When you get hit by the projectiles, your head decreases in health. So I didn't make a ton of changes, honestly. I was adding features and changing stuff around so it looks a little more polished.
Hey guys, Liam here. I made it so that if you hit a creature, you'll die. I also added extra traps as well as a bonus item you can collect if you're up for a challenge. Meanwhile, Polymars added a cool blast attack to Project C.
This is what I did with the project. I basically added a lot of polish. I added visual effects. I added more enemies and more challenges on the map.
Alright, so I decided to spend my final hour with this game adding the last bit of polish, which was music and sound effects. For the music, I just downloaded a track off of itch.io, but I actually made the sound effects myself.
I added a few final touches such as sound effects and a power which gives you an extra life in case you mess up.
And hey everyone, it's Noah here to work one more time on games B, C, and D and finish this crazy challenge. For game B, I changed the fonts to one of my favorites, Fredoka. Also changed the collectible graphic to a star. And yeah, now we have a very cool, short rage game. For game C, I'm very happy with the changes made. Lots of visual polish, recreated the enemies, and made some ultra simple animations, tweaked sound effects, added cool particles. All in all, a cool looking, tiny experience. Finally, for game D, I started terribly by accidentally deleting the entire level. So I had no choice but to make a bunch of new levels. I changed color schemes and made a total of 4, which increase in difficulty.
And there we go, 4 games made in one day by 4 developers. Big thanks to Polymars and Samyam for joining us. They both have really cool YouTube channels, which I recommend you check out. Also, thank you for helping us recently reach 300,000 subscribers. It means a lot. Make sure to subscribe. We have a bunch of really exciting projects in the making, which we'll release before the end of the year. So stay tuned.